Superman, this game really sucks! Superman, this game is so awful! So do not play it! Take my word for it! The Nintendo 64, one of my favorite video game consoles of all time, has games like GoldenEye, Perfect Dark, Star Fox 64, Banjo-Kazooie, and of course, two fantastic Zelda titles. And yet there's one game that is so bad, so amazingly, horrendously, horrifically terrible, and a game that I myself have played. Because as you will see, I spent $6.99 of my own money on this piece of garbage. None other than Superman 64. Basically the room of video games. Let me get right into this so I can just knock this piece of garbage out of the park. All I'll say is that Superman comes across like the Man of Steel, but this is one piece of kryptonite that is sure to lodge in his heart for all time. Story for this game. So Lex Luthor, or Luthor, however you pronounce his name, has created a virtual metropolis and stolen Superman's friends, Lois Lane and some other people I don't really care about, and thrown them into this virtual world. Which doesn't even make sense in the context of its own game, because even though it's a virtual world, there are other real people in there, and even some trying to be realistic-ish buildings, so it doesn't really make any sense. The story doesn't really make any sense, but compared to the rest of the game, there's really not much I can really say about that. Presentation for this game, design-wise, this game just looks horrendous, even by the standards of the late 90s. Like, Star Fox 64 had better graphics in this game. The colors are just so bland, the character models are like, they look like 3D paper cutouts. It's absolutely pathetic. And the animation is just so freaking stiff. It's unbelievable. It's not even really a saving grace, because at best it's mediocre, but it looks good by comparison to the rest of the presentation, is the sound design. The music is actually somewhat catchy, though it's also incredibly repetitive at times, so there's really not much else to say there. Yeah, design-wise, this game is just, it's bad. Like, bad. Alright, so, to the extent that it's possible, let's try to describe the controls for this game. So you use the joystick to move Superman, very clunky as you can see. You press the A button to punch. You use the B button, no, you press the Z button to get Superman to get up in the air and hold B, and then use the analog stick to fly around. Now you can use like the 4 arrow C buttons in order to use your like super breath and what have you when you get them. Controls in this game really are just flat out horrific, honestly. Like, I honestly can't think of a more convoluted, confusing control scheme. Like, even like for the Nintendo 64, like, the control for this game is just abysmal. Like look at how glitchy everything is. Look at how, like, just difficult it is to fly around. And what makes it worse is that you have to fly through, like, every single ring. Usually, like, if you miss more than one ring, you've lost. And a big part of that is due to the just really shoddy controls in this game. It is absolutely pitiful. Let me show you. So in order to like pick up cars and stuff, you fly forward and hold B. Seriously, because they didn't explain the controls at all in the main game, this took me like 20 tries. And yeah, I know there's like a practice session in it, which I showed you, but even still, that doesn't account for just the shoddy controls of the main game. Now, to be fair, you can look up the controls here a little bit. You have to like go through the story. As you can see, it gives you like a bit of a description, but even then it's just so bare bones. it doesn't really tell you, like, really how to effectively use them. So here's some of the absolutely atrocious combat in this game. Like I said earlier, a good game like, say, Zelda would have had something called a Z-targeting to actually make the combat work in a 3D space. Superman has nothing like that. Heck, even Mario 64 had better combat than this. And all you were doing in that game was jumping on turtles. It's absolutely pathetic. So, the gameplay of the Superman 64 requires flying through a lot of rings. And I mean a lot of rings. That's like at least half of the game. Maybe even 90% of the game if I'm being very generous. You fly through more rings than Sonic the Hedgehog in this game. It's just a 7-year-old kid who is in kindergarten could come up with more original level design than this. And what makes things worse is the fact that the camera is so bad and the controls are so, like, inconsistent. And the fact that everything is timed. And if you miss one or one too many rings, you have to start all the way back at the beginning of the ring cycle. Get it? Seriously. I don't know about you, but I feel like I could have come up with a better game design when I was in preschool to the crap that this game has us playing through. Now, there is a little bit more than just flying through rings, but not a lot more. Like, blowing on tornadoes to make them disappear, going through close quarter hallways to try to stop detonators from going off, and it's all garbage. No matter what you do, it's like the gameplay, even without the incredibly poor controls and stiff camera, would still be, at best, unoriginal and lackluster, but because of that, it's just so shoddy and terrible. Like, I don't even know how to put it into words. Like, you have to really play this game to understand just what I'm talking about. In fact, let me just show you a few gameplay clips of myself playing the game so you know what I'm talking about. So here I am, living proof that I, Dana, am in fact playing Superman 64. Probably the worst game I have played in my life. All you do in this game, well, 90% of it is literally just flying through rings. Just the most riveting gameplay I have ever seen in my life. Look at this. Superman just like doing his weird arm stretchy thing, as you can see. If I wanted to fly through rings, I'd play like a Sonic the Hedgehog game. See, this is like how overly like stiff the control is in this game. Like even when you sort of get the hang of the controls sort of like don't even work like 50% of the time properly. Like, they just internally like don't always do what you tell them to do. That's how terrible the control is for this game. This is too good. Look at this camera glitch right here. Look at this camera glitch. This is what I'm talking about. So like the wall thing that I got stuck behind just totally pushed back the camera like several pixels or whatever behind. What do I even have to say? Like, the camera in this game is just freaking atrocious, as I'll get out. And of course I'm about to lose. Because this game sucks. So just to demonstrate more of the horribleness of this control, so I'm supposed to like grab this thing to stop the tornadoes, and now it took me like several times to get that. Now, this is what I mean when I'm talking about the tornado breath. Like, first off, well, holy cow! And then you end up underwater. It's like, look just how poorly designed everything is.
Then there's no time to waste.
And when you lose, you like have to fly through all these rings again. The level design is absolutely pitiful, even for a game that came out back in 1999. Everything is just pitiful. So, just to demonstrate a little bit more of the horrid camera in this game, here we have an indoor close quarters level. And as you can see, Soups is just running into everything left and right. Look at these guys. I mean, I guess you're supposed to, like, block their lasers or something? So you have to, like, pick them up and throw them. I mean, at least you're not flying through rings, right? Right? Wow. Yeah, this is something else. At the end of the day, pretty much everything about this game, the gameplay-wise, is bad. The controls are bad, the level design's bad, the combat is horrendous and cheesy, and the boss fights, oh, I haven't even gotten into the boss fights. They're basically just glorified, like, regular fights, and all you do is mash the A button over and over again. Like I said previously, they could have added a targeting system like Zelda had to actually make the combat somewhat decent, but they didn't, and it's horrendous. I don't really know what else to say. The gameplay to Superman 64 is the lowest rung of the ladder as far as gameplay goes for any 3D game I have ever played. Alright, I'm trying to be a little bit fair to this piece of trash, this trashter piece, as it were. So, like I said previously, the music is okay at best. And while the graphics overall are terrible, at least Superman has his signature colors and his design is somewhat decent looking as long as you don't look at his pixelated face. That's really the only positive aspects to this game. There really is nothing else about this game that I can really say is worth mentioning because it's just so bad. At the end of the day, only play this game, and I mean only play this game if you're in the mood to play a really, really bad game, because this game is so bad that it can be entertaining in small doses, but I mean in small doses, because after you play it more than a little while, it gets really frustrated. I couldn't even bring myself to finish this game all the way through because frankly, it's just not worth it. Superman 64 is the worst video game I have ever played in my life. And this game, of course, gets the lowest ranking I'm willing to give a video game, a 1 out of 5. Yes, 1 out of 5. Okay, I'm done. I'm done. No more of this for me. Well, that's enough Superman for me for like a lifetime. You don't get worse than this game. This game is so bad that it's just terrible. Just atrociously bad. So there's just one thing I have to do to this game. I, Dana, reviewer of games, sentence you, Superman 64, to die!